Welcome to the Leonard Peikoff Show. A well-known teacher and author, Dr. Leonard Peikoff is Ayn Rand's chosen heir and the leading authority on her philosophy of objectivism, a philosophy she presented in her famous novels, The Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged. And now, Leonard Peikoff.
Today, is health care a right? I say no. Are others or the government obligated to help you with your medical expenses? I say no. What are the government's policies in health care doing to the practice of medicine in this country? I say they're ruining it while turning our doctors into postmen and bureaucrats. That's what I say. What do you say? Call in and tell me, especially if you disagree with what I'm going to say. Of course, I like having people agree. I like hearing from those of you who agree or who want to ask questions from a sympathetic context. But we have a policy of giving priority to the other side so we can air complete controversy on this show. If you call in, I'll be polite. I hope I'll be illuminating. And the only rule we have is no speeches either way. You don't lapse into a speech. I won't lapse into a speech. I'll be back after these messages. It's 2:34. My name is Leonard Peikoff, and our subject today is health care a right? Let's start by noting that the term right is a moral and not just a political term. It tells us that a certain course of behavior is right, sanctioned, proper, a prerogative to be respected by others, not interfered with, and that anyone who violates a man's rights is wrong, morally wrong, unsanctioned, evil. Now, our only rights, according to the American viewpoint, and by that I mean the Declaration of Independence, are the rights to life, liberty, property, and the pursuit of happiness. That's it. According to the Founding Fathers, we're not born with the right to a trip to Disneyland, or a meal at McDonald's, or a kidney dialysis, nor with the 18th century equivalent of these things. We have certain specific rights, and only these. Why only these? Observe that all legitimate rights, and this is something we're going to talk about tomorrow in greater detail, all legitimate rights have one thing in common. They are rights to action, not to rewards from other people. The American rights impose no obligations on other people, merely the negative obligation to leave you alone. The system guarantees you the chance to work for what you want, but not to be given it without effort by somebody else. The right to life, for instance, does not mean that your neighbors have to feed and clothe you. It means that you have the right to earn your food and clothes yourself, if necessary by a hard struggle, and that no one can forcibly stop your struggle for these things or steal them from you if and when you've achieved them. In other words, you have the right to act and to keep the results of your actions, the products you make, to keep them or trade them with others if you wish, but you have no right to the actions or products of others except on terms to which they voluntarily agree. Otherwise, there would be no liberty in the country. If your mere desire for something, anything, imposes a duty on other people to satisfy you, then they have no choice in their lives, no say in what they do. They have no liberty. They cannot pursue their happiness. Your so-called right to X at other people's expense mean that those others become rightless serfs, i.e. your slaves. Your right to anything at others' expense means that they become rightless. And that's why the United States system defines rights as it does, strictly as the rights to action. This was the approach that made the United States the first truly free country in all world history, and soon afterwards, as a result, the greatest country in history. We became the richest, the most powerful, and we became the most powerful because our view of rights made our country the most moral. Ours was the country of individualism and personal independence. Today, however, we are seeing a total abandonment by the professors, by the politicians, of the moral principles on which this country was founded. We are seeing the complete destruction of the concept of rights. The original American idea has been virtually wiped out, ignored as if it had never existed. The rule now is for politicians to ignore and violate men's actual rights while arguing about a whole list of rights never dreamed of in this country's founding documents. So-called rights which require no earning, no effort, no action at all on the part of the recipient. You're entitled to something the politicians say simply because it exists and you want or need it. Period. You're entitled to be given it by the government. Where does the government get it from? What does the government have to do to private citizens, to their individual rights, and I'm talking now to their real rights, in order to carry out the promise of showering free services on the people? The answers are obvious. The newfangled rights wipe out real rights and turn the people who actually create the goods and services involved into servants of the state. The Russians tried this exact system for many decades. Unfortunately, we have not learned from their experience. What should we have learned? Stay tuned. I'm going to tell you a little later in the show. But first, I want to hear from some callers telling me what you think so far after this message. It's 2:40. I'm Leonard Peikoff. Our topic is health care a right? My answer is no. Welcome, Ryan. You're on the Leonard Peikoff Show. What's on your mind?
Hello, Dr. Peikoff. My statement is that I believe that we should have socialized medicine in this country because most of the other progressive European countries do, and I think we should follow along the lines of like England and France and a lot of the other social democratic countries in Europe, because I think it's
Well, let me get your definition of a progressive country. If you think that socialized medicine or social democracies like England and France are progressive, presumably because the state does much more than it does in the American system, do you think that total dictatorship is even more progressive because it does everything?
Well, I'm not going to that extreme.
Why not, though? I mean, if more government is good, why wouldn't total government be total good? That's what Hitler and Stalin thought.
There's an argument with capitalism saying that, yes, why not a total meld of government and business, to further the goals of the country would be good.
Oh, wait a minute. Capitalism is not a meld of government and business. Capitalism is a complete laissez-faire.
Oh.
It's complete separation of state and economics, so the government has no favors to hand out to any group.
I'm just saying, I'm saying fascism would be a...
Oh, fascism is totalitarianism. That's the exact opposite of capitalism. Did you ever read my first book?
Which was not the objectivism.
No, my first book, I can get a plug in here, is called The Ominous Parallels.
Uh-huh.
And it was the parallels between the Germany before Hitler and United States today, and how Hitler was a thorough socialist, preached total altruism, total collectivism, preached everything that the intellectuals of England and France that you're here asking us to emulate, preached every one of those ideas and brought the whole country to total fascism as a result. And that it's going to happen here, too, I maintained, precisely because those ideas, when you socialize one thing, you've said there are no rights left. It's just a question of how long, then, before the government takes everything.
So you're saying it establishes a precedent for...
It destroys the principle. It's like, say, we're going to have an honest judge, but every once in a while, he can kill an innocent defendant, or he can convict him. How can he do that? Well, on the grounds that the public is more important than the truth. Well, if that's the case, the truth doesn't count. And the same thing is true if you're going to say, let's socialize medicine. In other words, we'll enslave the doctors and just rob people a little bit. Then once you can do that, you have said we're all slaves, and it's just a matter of time. Thanks very much, Ryan. You think about that, okay?
Thanks, Mr. Peikoff.
Okay. Scott, welcome to the Leonard Peikoff Show. You're on KIEV.
Well, thank you. My name is Scott Holleran.
Oh, you're giving us a last name? Oh, Scott Holleran, I know you.
Well, I'm...
Am I supposed to say that I know you? Oh, is this supposed to be hidden?
No, not at all. I just wanted to tell you that it's a delight to listen to a rational voice on radio. I followed your distinguished career, and I'm thrilled that you're talking about health care today because, as you know, I'm director for an organization.
Well, why'd you tell us about this organization briefly?
Sure, I will. Thank you. It's called Americans for Free Choice in Medicine, and our fundamental philosophy is, of course, that health care is not a birthright. which you're talking about today. And if anyone's interested in contacting our organization and getting involved and making sure that they have free choice in medicine, they're welcome to call our office in Newport Beach. Can I give out the phone number?
Sure, why not?
It's area code 714-645-2622. And if they like what you're saying today, then they ought to call that number and become engaged in the battle.
Now, let me just ask a question in the interest of full disclosure.
Sure.
Is it not true that this organization that you represent was founded by a group of private doctors who have a very self-interested and selfish motive in wanting to keep medicine free so they can become rich?
Yes, exactly. And, of course, I don't regard their self-interest and the fact that they're acting in their self-interest as vice. I regard that as a virtue.
Oh, you don't feel guilty about representing the entrenched rich?
Not at all. I feel...
Well, what about all the poor people that these doctors are scalping?
The doctors aren't the ones that are hurting the patients. It's the policies and the regulations that governments put in place that are tying the hands of the doctors and keeping them from being autonomous scientists and individuals and acting on their patients' behalf.
Well, Scott, I couldn't agree with you more. I'm just saying some of the things that people say to me. And give your phone number one more time before we say goodbye.
Sure. It's area code 714-645-2622.
Okay, Scott, thanks very much. And I'd like to say a few more words about the meaning of socialism. Socialized medicine is the right name, that, like Ryan said, for any government medical plan. Whether it's Medicare or managed care, the full-fledged Canadian or British system. You don't even have to think of health care as a special case. If you want to understand the meaning of socialism, it's just as obvious if the government were to proclaim a universal right financed by the state to food or to a vacation or to a haircut. Follow out the logic here, because the issue has nothing to do with health per se. How would these alleged new rights be fulfilled? Let's take the simplest case. You're born with a moral right to hair care, let's say, provided by a loving government, free of charge to all who want or need it. What would happen under such a moral theory? Well, haircuts are free like the air we breathe. So some people show up every day for an expensive new styling. The government pays out more and more. Barbers revel in their huge new incomes, and the profession starts to grow ravenously. Bald men start to come in droves for free hair implantations. A school of fancy, specialized eyebrow pluckers develops. Demand continues to soar. Prices continue to rise. It's all free. The government pays. The dishonest barbers are having a field day, of course, but so are the honest ones, because they're working and spending like mad trying to give every customer his heart's desire, which is a millionaire's worth of special hair care and services. And then the government starts to scream the budget is out of control. At this point, the Republicans are elected and they say we have the solution: managed hair care. Every haircut, they say, should involve not 2 but 3 entities. The barber, that's the individual who provides the haircut. The client, that's the individual who receives it. And the manager, who is the spokesman of the group or of society, who is regarded as above the individuals and entitled to their sacrifice. The manager, who knows relatively little about any particular case, but whose job as the voice of the collective is to cut costs somehow, anyhow, by giving orders backed by threats to the other 2 parties. Of course, the manager doesn't cut costs by increasing efficiency, because efficiency can't be achieved by orders and threats. He cuts costs only by, this is Washington's contribution, only by subtraction. Only by subtraction. Only by arbitrarily vetoing various services. Only by demanding sacrifices. It makes no difference in this kind of system whether the manager himself is or is not a barber. No decent barber would sacrifice his own creative work for the sake of becoming a bureaucrat giving orders to his colleagues. Only drones and power lusters would do it. So the principle of skill represented by the real barbers and the principle of client self-interest represented